Good afternoon. I call to order the board meeting for GCC, regular board meeting, July the 29th, 2020. Thank you for being here. Roll call. Mr. Anderson,
Mr. Anderson is absent tonight.
thank you. Mr. Block,
Here.
Mr. Mandrick,
Here.
Mr. Turner,
Here.
Campbell, here. Thank you all for being here, Superintendent Peterson, cabinet members. We're so glad to have you here. So we will move right into our board meeting at this time. Board members, we do have an agenda addendum that was added to the board minutes. And we need to take actions posting. The action will be under business item 9.2, reinstatement of data cost offset stipend for GCC employees. That is the addendum, and it will be under business. But I will need a motion to recommend for the addendum. Motion to approve.
I move approval.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Do I have a second, Mr. Mandrick? Thank you. Mr. Block? I will need a vote. All in favor. Mr. Block? Apparently he's not hearing me. Mandrick?
Yes.
Turner?
Yes.
Campbell? Yes. Going back to Mr. Block? All in favor?
Yes.
Thank you. All right. And so with that, we will ask Mr. Sample, do we have any public comments?
There are no public comments for tonight's meeting.
No public comments tonight's meeting. We will move into board members, our annual organization items for 2020-2021. Before we go into our board officers, we need to approve the appointment of two of our board members, Mark Anderson and Lily Campbell, for the next 4 years, I believe. So our term is up, but we will certainly need some discussion. If you would like for Mr. Anderson and Ms. Campbell to stay around, or if not, a little discussion on the item.
I move approval. I move that we extend the terms of Mark Anderson and Lily Campbell.
All right.
Second.
Okay, we have a second. We have a motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Any discussion?
Are you sure you want to do that to yourself?
I'm not sure. I'm thinking about discussing, but we'll do it.
Don't start trouble, Jack.
Okay, here none discussion. I will call for a vote on this item. Mr. Block,
Yes.
Mandrick,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Campbell, yes. That part of the organization has been completed. And now we are moving to our board officers, now that Mark and I are still on the board. So we will go into our officers, and that's for president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, and board member. Yes, Mr. Turner.
I move that we keep the officers in the same position that they've had this year.
All right. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Who is that?
Harry. Block, Mr.
Harry.
Block.
Harry.
Any discussion? Mr. Mandrick, anything you want to say? Anyone else?
I would be very pleased to see you as the president for this next year.
I would be very pleased to work with all of you. Board secretary, you are okay with being board vice president? Mr. Mandrick?
Yes.
Well, thank you guys again for your vote of confidence. I hope I'm doing what you want me to do. If not, you will certainly let me know. So with that, hearing no other discussion, I will call for a vote on this item of board officers. Again, Mr. Block?
Yes.
Mr. Mandrick?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Campbell? Yes. And so be it. The officers are still in place as they were.
And it's too late.
Congratulations, everyone.
Yes, congratulations.
Congratulations.
And it's too late to back out now, no matter what Jack Turner says. So.
Ah,
All right. Well, thank you guys. That went very well. Thank you. And now we're moving to superintendent's update. So, Dr. Peterson, you're on.
It is such an honor to talk to you today. It is hard to believe that has it been a month since we've been together? It was June 23rd, I believe, the end of June,
Yeah.
when we had our last time together. So very much has been going on in the world and in the GCC. You might have thought that we were on vacation. We would laugh, because that certainly has not been the case for anybody that I know in this world. So just a few things. I'm not going to be able to share everything that's been going on, but let me give you a few things. We have just finished today, right before we got on this call with you, the second day of a 3-day retreat with all of our administrators. You know, we always do that. Just this is the first year we've been doing it virtually. So 3 days we've been trying to figure out, and I think we've done a decent job, how to give people enough breaks and have enough content, but not drive them crazy, have a little bit of fun, but have a little bit of seriousness. And so far, I think we're striking a decent balance. I'm hoping we don't have to become expert at this. I'm hoping this is not the future of our retreats, but I think we're doing the best we can in the situation that we have, trying to find some laughter and some love and some ability to just enjoy our time together in a difficult circumstance. We have had some pretty interesting things. We surprised them on day one with Flip Flippin', who you all know as the person who started the Capturing Kids' Hearts group and the Flippin' group, and has made such an impact. He came and surprised the team. Well, we were not surprised, but the administrators were surprised with starting off our retreat. And then today we had Lyle Kurtman, who, you know, works with us and has for some years, but quite a famous author and national speaker and a writer, and he was with us today. Wendy York, who is a long-term partner with us in the coherence work, was here today. We have had a sighting here and there of a Yeti, and with that, what it is this year we have been embedding in the theme, and I know most of you may not have seen this, the very important movie Abominable, which is about a Yeti, in order to help us have songs, humor, and inspirational stuff. We may show you some of that when we have the board retreat. We'll figure out how that works. But our inspiration this year is Vision 2020. Dream, design, adapt, and persevere. And we're talking a lot how this pandemic and the world we're in has created a circumstance where you have to be able to adapt, change quickly, and persevere and overcome. So a lot around perseverance this year in the work that we're doing. So we have been, since we came together with you, been given much guidance, revisions on the guidance that we were given from SCOE, CDE, CDC, and others. And a lot of things are the same, a lot of things are different, but all of it is confusing. And that was all pretty muddy until Governor Newsom and local county officials provided the very clear guidance, as we emailed and shared with you, that all public and private schools would start the year in full distance learning. That made it unequivocal what our guidance was, at least for the moment, and gave us time to figure out what we're going to do when hopefully we get to come back together. Once we got that news last Monday, we met first thing the cabinet did with all of the principals as they came back on calendar. Not that very many of them left, by the way. Almost all of them were doing summer school all summer long and really hadn't left because they were also trying to monitor all this information. But they officially came back on calendar July 20th, and we met with them first thing in the morning to share with them the news about SB 98 and the budget trailer bill and some of its implications, as well as the news about full distance learning. So we met with them, we shared it with information with them. They were kind of shell-shocked. And then in order to process information, Christine and I met with each of the principals individually, kind of answer questions, kind of make sure they were in a good space. and see what resources they needed to be supported with, etc. So that's kind of the way we started out last week. Since we've come together, I have, and I know Aaron Thornsbury's been on some of these, I've been involved in CASBO, School Services, AXA, CSDC, CCSA, I'm sure I'm missing something, probably FICMAT, webinars on the budget and the budget implications and the budget trailer bill and school reopening. We do at this time know what there is to be known. And that is that it's a scary world and it's changing all the time. And we are held harmless for this coming year in terms of our ADA being held harmless to the February date of our ADA. But that also means that at this time, they're projecting we don't get funded for growth, nor does anybody else in the state. It's an interesting thing. It's still being worked on. There possibly may find an answer to that. But we also have some federal dollars. Aaron has been spending a good deal of his time trying to figure out which federal pot of money can be spent what way and how quickly it has to be spent. But we're grateful for those supports to help us do what we need to do. So we're definitely continuing to follow up on that. Within that, there is, as we have shared with you, a number of compliance documents that have come out. And the most recent one that we shared with you was the Learning Continuity and Attendance Plan, which was going to be and needs to be approved by the end of September. We've shared that with you. We've talked to you about it. And as of today, they have changed the name of it. It is now not the Learning Continuity and Attendance Plan. Now it is the Learning Continuity Plan. Do I have that right? So now it is an LCP, because we need more acronyms and we need more different changes. So everything is continuing to be tracked. We're doing the best we can. A lot of questions out there, but they're the same questions the whole state is asking, not just us. And I definitely want to affirm Christine, who's monitoring a lot of those compliance related items and working with Aaron closely on those things. We have worked quite a bit on our blueprint for excellence across the summer. It will be our third edition of this document. We're excited about that. We are making some changes to some of our terminology. We've got some good visuals. Today we spent some good time with our administrative team giving us feedback on how these do or don't drive our work. We're going to include our equity work in our blueprint. So at our board retreat, if not sooner, you'll be seeing a draft of our blueprint for excellence for the year. We met with Hanover a couple of times across the summer and planned for the retreat. They were with us yesterday, and we had a lot of discussions with them about how data is used to drive our equity work. And so we are excited about that and about our next steps with the Hanover group. They've been very receptive. They've been a good partner in helping us understand how to do this equity work. The administrators have started a book study on the book Shattering Inequities for this year, which is just like the title says, it's about figuring out how to find solutions for the inequities that may exist within our system. Christine and I, even though this feels like 10 years ago, since we have been with you, also gave a campfire presentation called Intention and Impact. And it was about upstream thinking, design thinking, and how to be a transformational leader using those tools. It was very well received. We've been asked to do a repeat in September of that presentation. So excited about that. I have conducted all the annual evaluations since I have seen you last of cabinet members and administrators. And there was a lot of really good conversations. There were some crucial conversations, but it was a good time to be had by all. We also I have been attending the AXA Weekly Superintendents Leadership Council, provided a lot of information. We've been going to webinars for AXA and the Leadership Council related to school closure, COVID-19, the Learning Continuity Plan, and more. We've also been attending on a weekly basis CASEL webinars, and that's the social emotional learning entity that we have been letting guide our work around social emotional learning, but a lot of it is around SEL and its lever for equity and our equity work. We've attended, some number of cabinet have attended multiple offerings from our attorneys, Young, Minnie, and Core. on surviving the legal and operational obstacles around COVID-19. Some of that's HR related, some has been liability related, etc. And then a lot, I just see here webinar, 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 and another webinar. So rather than go through them, there are many webinars. I have gotten to the point where I no longer can remember which entity is saying which thing because it all just blurs in my mind. So I just want you to know that the hardest thing right now, I believe, for Jason and Christine and I, is keeping track of everything that's being said, who's saying it, which part of it's meaningful, which part of it's relevant, and how to apply it and understand what we need to let go of and what we need to pursue. It's just a lot. It's a fire hose, as Dr. McCormick has said, of information. So we're doing the best we can in that area for sure. So in terms of the biggest part of my update, that is most of it. Some of it you'll hear about today on the agenda as well. I didn't go into those things, but I do want to at this time officially recognize that we have a new face in the Zoom board meeting world here. You have before you our newest member, which is our Director of Special Education and Student Services. Well, I want to welcome today Eric Crawford, who's been with us for, I think it would be 7 working days at this time.
Still in shock.
7 working days. And we have utilized him a lot and been presenting him with a lot of information during those 7 working days. He officially reports through the Ed Services Department through Assistant Superintendent McCormick. So Dr. McCormick, would you like to say a few words in introducing Eric to the world?
I absolutely would, and welcome Eric. And he has jumped in with both feet in his short term here, but Eric comes to us with a wealth of experience, not only at the site principal level, but also most recently, he came from the Sacramento County Office of Education and served as an area principal for special ed. So we are excited to have him on board. I've already got him busy, and after today's session in the retreat, he made a comment about, wow, so much work. And I go, guess what? Next year, you're in. So he's ready to go. And he's like, I was thinking that the whole time. I could talk about this and we could do that. So welcome aboard, Eric. Nice to have you.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be
Yes.
here. I'm very happy to be working with GCC.
Thank you for being here and thank you for applying and coming over this way. We really appreciate you and looking forward to all of the good work you're going to be doing in special education and pupil services. So we do welcome you wholeheartedly, the members of the board. Thank you.
And Madam President, we do have another new director, but her first day is Monday of next week. So we will be introducing our new director of academics at our next board meeting, just
Very
so that
good.
we're aware.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. Board members, do you have any questions, comments? Yes, Mr. Turner. He's muted. He's on mute.
Cindy, thank you for your report. And I'm sure we'll have a forum for this, but I would strongly encourage that we support growth, even though there may be a cap on ADA. I think that cap will be removed sometime in the future. And I know it may cost us now, but I would really strongly start the idea that we would not only recruit, but also encourage a new student population.
I would say from your words through my mouth, that's what I've been saying for the last 2 weeks. So we're on exactly the same page. Thank you, Jack.
All right.
And I have heard you say that, Dr. Peterson, that we will not be turning away anyone, that we will be encouraging students to come and we will be taking them regardless of whether we're getting paid for them or not. We will be opening our doors. So Jack, you right on. That has been her philosophy. So thank you for that. Anything else, board members? Thank you, Dr. Peterson, for all of the work, all of you guys. You know, you've done nothing but work the whole time. So we really appreciate everything. Thank all of you. I don't know how you do it, how you keep up going. Thank you.
Can I just say one last thing before I forget here? I definitely want to affirm everyone. Jason has had some medical procedures this summer. Christine has had to move this summer. Many people are facing changes in their life in our organization with a spouse working, being laid off. The world is changing a lot right now, and there's a lot of impact on people. And despite all of that impact, they're showing up and they're working hard and they're doing what needs to be done.
Thank you. We understand it is hard, but we really appreciate, as I stated before, appreciate all of the efforts that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of you are doing and keeping the organization moving. So thank you. All right. And now we shall move into study sessions. 2021 school year update. Dr. Peterson or Mr. Sample, who has that item?
This is a good question because I am not sure with all the retreat if we overtly said what or how we were going to update with this one. Mr. Sample, what do you think?
Yes. So good evening, board. Some of the items that we were updating you on actually were covered by Dr. Peterson in her presentation, just around the conversation that the beginning of the 2020-21 school year, we will be opening in distance learning. And then as Dr. Peterson shared, she and Dr. McCormick met directly and individually with each of the principals to begin to develop their plan and process. In addition, Aaron Thornsberry, as well as our facilities department, they've been working hard to ensure, and you'll see a number of items today, to get the equipment and the supplies necessary so that when we do have our students come back on physically, we are prepared and ready to go for them. And so this item was just a general update item that I'm quite sure as the school year goes along, we will continue to have this as an ongoing item.
So let me add a little bit. Thank you, Jason, for saving me from myself from a moment there. A little bit too much going on right now. So I alluded to it in my superintendent's update. So SB 98 was the budget trailer bill. Got that right, Jason? SB 98. And we've had a number of webinars on the specificity of it, but it is, so yes, we have the starting and distance learning, which is more of a public health and political decision that was made, right? That we needed to follow with the governor. Public health and the governor made this in terms of going to distance learning. But we have other things that are happening in the sense that SB 98 said to the world, we want to tell you that to the extent possible, you should have students on your campus. These two things are at odds with one another, right? So, so we're being told by the legislature that we should try to have our students on campus, but we're being told by the governor and public health that we can't have our students on campus. It's a little bit hard. And then SB 98 goes on to say, if you have to do distance learning, here's a whole bunch of things you have to do. So we're doing distance learning, but we're going to be held harmless to the February ADA numbers, but we are unsure yet. We've been talking with auditors. There's a lot of implications of, we now have to show that we are doing real FaceTime teaching using our digital tools with our students. We are engaging them in live instruction somehow using our digital tools. We have to do that with credentialed teachers. We have minimum day requirements that are spelled out. In other words, you have to somehow be able to document that students are doing work for a given minute, number of minutes. Some of that live, some of that in work, and we don't have all the answers to this yet. We have to be doing assessments that are meaningful to show that we know where kids are and how we're closing the gap for them based on this continuity of learning idea. Those are things that we're talking to the principals about. How are you assessing in this world that we're in, right? And how are you ensuring that you are having the face-to-face using digital? And along with that, the legislature and SB 98 said that we have to have peer interaction with that. So how are you ensuring it? So it would be, this is a peer interaction, right? If you were my class, I could say that we are right now having the face-to-face peer interaction, but we're wanting to do that meaningfully. We're wanting to do that with high sense of engagement and instructional outcomes. And, so there's a lot to be done, both educationally and compliance wise. And so the auditors don't know the answers right now about how we're going to do all that and how we're going to document that and how they're going to audit that. But SB 98 was very prescriptive. And the reason that it was so prescriptive was, you will remember that across the state, while we had gone right into distance learning within 2 days, other districts had barriers and were not even doing distance learning a month to 6 weeks after the closure, right? And the legislature didn't want to see that. They wanted to see that we were not leaving any children behind in the educational experience. So I think those are some of the key things. I just want to take a minute, Jason and Christine. Those were some of the key things, right, about school closure. We are making orders for things, and you're going to see some of those later on.
Yeah.
So we've ordered plexiglass because it is clear that you need to have plexiglass barriers, like at a lobby where a clerk may be interacting with people on a regular basis. So we've ordered plexiglass for lobby type areas across the GCC. And we have also ordered what is a barrier, if you will, for each child when we start back to have on their desk, which is a clear barrier that would sit on their desk and also provide another avenue of health and safety. We have installed hand sanitizer about, I don't know, it feels like every 6 feet throughout the entire GCC. And we have also ordered masks for 5 for every employee, and they are reusable, they're washable. And I think 2 for each child over 3rd grade at this point. If we have to have them for younger children, we have a source we can get quickly. That advice is changing daily, whether young ones do or don't. We have some face shields because certain categories of people need to use a face shield. And I'm trying to think, the advice on whether or not we have to take temperatures has changed daily. Yes, no, at least 5 times. We do have some touch-free temperature capability, but at this point, right now, today, they're saying no, don't do it. Yesterday they said yes, but today it's a no. But we are asking people as they enter buildings, and we'll have to figure out how to do that when school starts. They do have to answer a set of questions related to self-reporting if they have symptoms or not before they come in. We do have a process for isolating if we need to. What else have we done? Jason and Christine, what am I missing?
Well, I think the other element is our, the governor talked about the PPE, so we know that's coming, that he was able to get from the Office of Emergency Services through our county offices. So we have some backup supplies coming as well.
So Yolo County and Sacramento County, they were giving counts of students for all the schools in their counties, and then they dispersed those out. So we've gotten those. It's about, according to the governor's office, or governor, anyway, the Office of Emergency Services, according to them, it's a 60-day supply. We don't know yet because we haven't really inventoried what we've been able to get, but we're grateful. We're grateful. And of course, a great deal of this we won't be using until we actually physically get our kids on campus. So I think that's a little more detail. I'm sorry, I should have spent more time writing up my thoughts about that, but I think we're in a good place in terms of the preparation work that we have done to get ready.
Cindy, you're in a better place than a lot of school districts. I keep up with them through my daughter, through my grandson, and just with the webinars that I've been attending. And you have done a yeoman's job of getting ready. And I really applaud you guys for what you have done. and you have gotten things in place as they change each day. You're there. I've been ferociously reading what's happening and trying to figure out where we are and listen to all of the stuff that I get on webinars from AXA and other places. So I do applaud you for what you've done so far. And all of the things you've done are the things that they say we have to do. So thank you for being proactive. You're there. Thank you.
That's a wonderful thing. One other comment, and then I know Bruce has his hand raised up. In terms of the central office, you will remember that we were remotely working. We called everybody back in the central office, meaning business services, HR, et cetera, July 13th. And we're very excited about that. And almost at the same moment, it was within days, if not the same day, that's when we went into more cases, shelter in place, higher concern. So honestly, as of, I think it was Wednesday of last week, we have moved quite a bit of those people back to remote working at this time. They are essential workers. We can ask them to work in the office if necessary. But the way that the guideline works is if they're capable of fulfilling their job duties from a remote home location, we want to encourage that until the guidance from the governor change. So I just want you to be aware, we've kind of got a rotating schedule where there's always somebody in the central office, and cabinet is here most days, but there's always somebody at the front lobby. They're behind plexiglass, they have a mask on, but there's always somebody at the front lobby, but there isn't a full cadre of people because they're working from home. But at this point, Mr. Thornsberry assures me that his team is highly functioning from at home and they're getting the job done. So I did want you to be aware of that. I'm sorry. I know Bruce had his hand up, Madam President.
Well, I was going to second what Lily said a few minutes ago, but I also had a question. At this point, do we have a hard date for, I can't say opening the school year? We have a hard date.
Well, we have our adopted calendar, school calendar that you've already adopted is the calendar we will follow. It's just we will follow it for distance learning. So yes, there's a firm school calendar that we will be continuing to follow, but there's not a calendar date of moving from distance learning to some form of physical yet. And I don't think the governor listed anything.
No.
Did he? I think it was kind of a until the situation changes type of thing.
Jack.
Yes, I want to second what you've said about the work that we've done. I have a question. Are we planning, or maybe you even are doing it now, are we going to have a lobby open on each of the sites so that people can come in, even, I assume the staff would be behind plexiglass and so forth? It's back to that issue of enrolling new students. How do we plan to identify those students and enroll them?
We already have that. So every site, I believe, has like a clerk 1 position or something similar, which starts up in mid to late July. And they have had a clerk on campus for those things, and they will continue to. And yes, we do have plexiglass for all of those lobbies, and they have their masks.
Okay.
And we have the antiseptic, and so we do understand, and that's what we even shared again today, I believe, with the principals, is we are essential workers. We will need to be on campus. There is nothing that says we can't be on campus. What it says is we can't congregate. So I can't bring all my principals together and meet physically with them. But they could go on their campus, and many of them did. And as you can see from behind me, I'm in my office. We can do all those things, but we can't congregate. So it's fine to ask them to be on campus, as long as we're making them safe, as you said. Plexiglass, masks, all the other things are there to make them safe. So,
thank you.
Any other comments from board members? Thank you so much. And the next item, you kind of alluded to it, 6.2 learning continuity and attendance plans. You say it's already changed.
I know, we put this on Friday and the name has already changed. Okay, Dr. McCormick is going to address this one.
So as you can see, I even updated my slide in the last minute or two to reflect the change. So good evening, Madam President, board members, fellow cabinet members, Dr. Peterson. Nice to have a few moments with you to just give you some insight on the Now Learning Continuity Plan. And that change happened during a CDE webinar I was on today. I'll talk a little bit about where we are in the development of this as we move on. But this plan is really based on Senate Bill 98 that we've already been discussing, but there are some components that have to specifically be addressed. These are to develop a plan in place of the LCAP. So we will not have an LCAP to start the school year. This plan in this Senate bill is the replacement too. So some of the things that you'll see identified here, you would have seen in an LCAP, for example, the description of the school and the students, the conversation about stakeholder engagement. There are some elements, however, based on the feedback that the legislature got in the previous closures about how we are engaging our stakeholders, how we're ensuring that we are hearing from stakeholders, especially of those high need students, to make sure that we're addressing their needs. So each of our sites will have to make sure that they have done probably very targeted outreach, for lack of a better word. We have to have a lot of evidence that we've done our part. I'm very confident they know with our working with our community engagement department how to do that. So, but it is a little bit of a different focus on the stakeholder engagement. And then the largest component of the plan really is this continuity of learning. I outlined the components here, but we need to be able to address what and if we get to have students on campus, what in-person instruction looks like, and as well as that distance learning. And then distance learning is broken out, as you can see, in many components to make sure that we're doing our best to support all of our students and our staff, that they can do the work that they need to do. And then, as Dr. Peterson talked about, how are we making sure pupils are participating and having that peer conversation as well as connecting. We have to address learning loss. We have to come up with an assessment system to be able to address what we've learned about where students have learning gaps and how we're going to address those learning gaps. We have to address mental health and social emotional well-being, not only for students, but for staff, based on any of the trauma that may have occurred because of the pandemic and other factors. The engagement and outreach, again, based on feedback from before, some of our school partners outside of the GCC didn't really get up and running fast enough, and parents were giving feedback that they felt their students weren't learning. And so we now have to address that. If parents and students aren't engaging with us, what is each school's strategy very specifically to do that? School nutrition, how we're making sure that our students all have access to school meals. And then finally, just like you would have seen in the LCAP, we have to delineate how we are ensuring that we are providing increased and improved services to those unduplicated students, so our foster youth, our English learner, and our low income students. So the timeline is interesting. We don't actually have the template yet. It is currently in draft form, which is why it is changing. Even some of the titles of items that I had on previous slides have changed since I put this together on Friday based on the call today. We should be getting that plan on the 1st with very specific instructions on how we're going to address each of those prompts. So this is the timeline that I shared with the site principals yesterday. We're going to start getting that stakeholder engagement piece moving so that we can make sure we're hearing from all our stakeholders, and then they'll start putting their plan together. I think one of our great advantages is we already thought about this a lot. We thought about it last year and how we're serving students. Our principals and their teams have spent lots of time thinking about what went well, what we need to adjust, how they need to move forward. So when they get to the writing, I think we're in a very, very good place. They're going to get the plans into us at the central office. We will bring them to you on a public hearing on your board meeting on September 8th, again for approval on the 22nd, and then send them to our authorizers and our county offices of education. And that will be our learning continuity plan. I have to even think about what to call it. So happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay. Board members? Any questions? Thank you, Dr. McCormick.
Bruce has a question.
Bruce?
Just one question.
Yes.
We submitted them to our LEA. Do they have any authority or role, or do they play other than just receiving it? Is there any formal review or anything of it?
No, charter schools are not subject to a formal review.
Okay.
If we were a traditional school district, they would have to send it to their county office, and their county office does have oversight, just like they did with the local control accountability plans. But no, we just submit them.
That's a wonderful thing.
Isn't
That's
it?
what I say.
Any other questions? So we will not approve it until in September when we come back at our next board meeting in September.
Yeah, we'll give you a brief overview at the
Yeah.
first meeting in September and provide space for public comment, and then you'll approve them at your second meeting.
Very good.
Mhm.
Excellent. Seeing nothing else, we go to Gateway International School Renewal Update. That's GIS, and it's coming up for renewal. So I think that's yours, Mr. Sample.
Yes, it is Mr. Samples. If he can figure
There
out
we
his
go.
mute button.
I'm
There
like,
we
if I
go.
can unmute myself. Good evening, Board President, members of the board, Dr. Peterson. I just want to kind of take a few minutes to update you on the charter renewal process for GIS. Just to remind you, pretty much when we started with EPIC, it starts our multi-year journey of charter renewal. So this year, here in 2020, is Gateway International School. And then later on, we'll be coming to you sometime in the spring to start talking about our next set of 5 schools, and then one, and then one, and then, well, another one. So we just wanted to take some time just to update.
You muted yourself? I think you muted
Something
yourself.
happened. We lost the information.
And you're muted and your information is lost. Just so
All
you
right.
know, Jason has had some sort of a spirit take over his computer a couple times during the retreat today. So
Okay, there
We'll
we are
try
back
again.
now. Yeah. To
All
the
right.
side.
Well, there we have it. Not quite sure what happened there, but all right, let's try this again. There. So just a little bit about the charter renewal process for GIS. It's really kind of this little 4-step walk that we're doing. One was the document compliance and program update. This year, we did some work with legal prior just because of the new law that was passed, AB 1505, and the newness around that. So we did have a pre-review by legal to kind of begin to update the petition to reflect the provisions of the new law. And then Principal Joy Takoy and our Ed Services team have already started the deep work of writing and working with the educational portion of the document, which I will tell you there's not a lot of things that are changing in it, but we are just updating that. In terms of our relationships with San Juan, we do have a new charter liaison who is has been with us for a year. John Gerard, our previous liaison who had been with us through the last renewal, transitioned and moved to actually join the staff of another charter school. But we really have what we feel a positive relationship with our current liaison, and we're looking forward to continue to develop the conversation with her. This year, she did share with us that she is doing a total of 5 renewals. And so we are one of 5 for her. Which I think it's going to be an exciting year for her. In terms of board members, we do continue to have a good relationship with our San Juan board members, and we continue to be involved and keep them updated in terms of the things that are happening at the school. And we do even invite them to various events and activities. It was kind of nice about a year and a half ago, one of their San Juan board members actually donated some things to GIS. And I will tell you, I feel as if San Juan does really consider GIS part of their family, and we're happy about that. AB 1505, that was the bill that was passed and signed by the governor that really kind of changed how charter schools were viewed in terms of renewal and a number of other things. GIS will be our first charter that will kind of go through this new law, this new lens. There were a number of changes in the renewal laws. Most in particular was this tier system of high, middle, and low. And so we are really making the argument, and we continue to push that GIS in terms of their academic data, in terms of their dashboard, is a high performing, high tier school. And we are kind of angling our arguments towards that. Also, we had a change in terms of the timeline. So you may remember the timeline always was 30 days to call a public hearing, 60 days to make a decision. That timeline has actually been extended to be 30 days for a public hearing, 90 days for for the board to actually make decisions. So that's kind of protracted and added another 30 days. I will tell you, most districts always kind of ask for that 30 days, depending on when you would submit. For us, in terms of a submission timeline, we are looking to submit sometime during fall 2020. We will definitely keep you updated. San Juan, much as many districts, our own board included, are doing their meetings virtually. So we still will be looking at ways that we can have our stakeholders and others have an active role and participate in the process. This item will continue to kind of come back to you over the course of the next few meetings as we prepare for this submission. I will take any questions.
There was one question I had to ask on the picture that you just clicked off of a few minutes ago. If you can go back to the original question. This young man, do I know him?
Which one?
This one.
I would say, because I can't see which one you're pointing to, I would say
Yes.
you probably have seen these young men at different points in times from GIS.
Yes, that is correct. Anyway, thank you so much for that update. Board members, any comments, questions? Anything? Hearing none, thank you for that update on the renewal process of GIS. I don't see any hands, so we're ready to move on. Thank you so much for that. All right, we are now at consent agenda items. And our consent agenda items under item 8, adoption of the minutes of the June 23rd regular board meeting, personnel consent agenda, purchases over $30,000, and the GCC Employee Handbook 2020-2021. I will entertain a motion to accept, a motion for the consent agenda items. Yes, Mr. Turner.
I move approval of the consent agenda. Then I have a question.
All right, may I have a second? We'll come back. Bruce. Bruce saying up, he's still on mute.
You're saying, Bruce, you're
He's
saying second?
Yes, he's saying second. He's on mute, but he's saying second.
Second.
Okay, now we're up for discussion. You had a question, Mr. Turner.
Yes, on our contracts for the cleaning of the facilities that we have. How does that work? What are they doing to clean the facilities?
Aaron, do you know which contracts are on this that
Yes.
relate to cleaning?
Yes.
Yeah, the coverall contracts. So these are for our SAVA facilities. They come in the evening, and they will be doing a more in-depth cleaning this year, of course, because of the pandemic. This will be, full on, obviously cleaning dust off of the surfaces and things like that, and then sanitizing all surfaces, sanitizing the floor, restrooms, kitchen, common areas, wiping all counters down and sanitizing those, and having to do that on a daily basis to ensure the safety.
So it's all the things that they have done in the past, because we don't have custodians out there. We only have a service to clean on a regular basis and add the layer of disinfecting, including all high touch areas have to be cleaned every day, sanitized every day. Every
day. Yeah, that was my assumption.
Yeah.
I assume they wear protective gear and so forth because they're going into, repeatedly, going into areas that may be exposed to the virus.
Yes.
And they were all Salvas, the ones that we're approving, Salvas for all of
Yes.
their programs. Yes.
Yes, that's correct.
Mhm. Any other questions? Any other discussion? Yes, Mr. Block. You're muted. Mr. Block, please. You still, okay.
Okay. My question was on the plastic. 49,000 piece of plastic, $80,000. What is, that's, I kind of got a little talk with Jason today, but can someone just go run me through that?
Aaron, is that the actual desk ones that we got?
Yeah, these are the desk trifolds.
So it's one for every desk so that when the kids return and they will be able to have their own physical barrier, it's clear, but their own physical barrier on their desk as well as their mask. So it's a second layer of protection for them. And to some degree, it also provides a second layer of protection for the teacher because the student has a mask and their desk space, and for the other students for that matter. So it's just a way that when we're ready for the students to come back, we show that we are providing the highest level integrity of thinking about ways to protect everyone in our buildings.
And that was mandatory, is that correct? That we had to provide some kind of shield for them?
We don't have to provide some kind of shield. We do have to provide at this point, it's changing every day, at this point, the masks, okay? We do have to separate them. We do have to have 6 feet of distancing. But what the desk shield allows is another layer of protection beyond that. Again, remember, when it comes time for the students to come back on campus, we need to have everything in place for a family and a parent to say, thank you for protecting my child, and for a teacher to say, thank you for making my classroom safe for me. So this is a way to provide that extra integrity to hopefully answer that question.
He's still muted.
Yeah,
Are you okay? You need any more?
Okay, so I look at the play care that I watch. I see the kids out on campus and they all playing with each other. I have one that's about a block from my house, and I'm saying, what are they doing? How are we gonna do? Since we're on this subject, how are we gonna handle lunch and all this other stuff?
So first of all, we will have to address all those when the time comes to bring them back on campus.
Okay.
But at this time, what we are discussing is that everything will be cohorted. So your HLA K, 8 campus, you will stay with your same class all day. You will not mix with other groups. And so if a COVID case works out, the only exposure would be to that classroom. We won't be going out on the playground unless we're going to a big open area. We're not going on to a place where we're all touching the same equipment and breathing each other's air. We are going to have the food brought into your classroom and you're going to have to eat in the classroom. So we're going to unfortunately have to take away or restrict all the places where children would come together and breathe the same air in a close manner and mix and congregate, which is cafeterias and playgrounds. Those can't go in the current world in the way they've been going. And it's sad and it's hard, but they're going to have to eat. And that's one of the reasons that desk barrier works, because when you're eating, you have to have your mask off. So at least if my mask is off, I'm eating my lunch, I'm behind the barrier. I'm not breathing on my teacher and other students.
Okay.
Right. Okay. Here, yes, Jack.
Yes. One thing, Cindy, more than a month or maybe 2 months ago, you shared a video with the board on Korea, which went through what the Koreans had done in their educational system, which was testing the temperature of every student. And then they were behind glass or plastic shields with masks. And it was a very, I assume that's the model we're looking at. that,
At least parts of it. Yeah. And it's unfortunate because I wish I didn't have to make that choice. But yeah, it's many parts of the same thing, Jack.
and then the second question is the state likely to reimburse us for the cost for the, let's say, the plexiglass at the desk?
Yeah,
I don't think it's the state though. Isn't that the federal money, Aaron?
Yeah.
yeah. So we are getting significant federal grants and some state money as well to pay for these items.
Thank you.
And we have a short window. Some of the money we have to spend by September, and we have to spend it on related information to the pandemic, to COVID, to our response, to reopening, and to the continuity of learning issues. And I know Aaron has been working very hard, as has Christine, to make sure we identify everything we can possibly appropriately use those dollars to support our sites with. And
December 30th is a significant deadline for most of those funds.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Hearing no other questions, I will, I'm getting ready. Okay, I'll call for a vote on the consent agenda items. So we're getting ready to vote on the consent agenda items. Mr. Block?
Yes.
Mr. Mandrick?
Yes.
Turner? Mr. Turner?
Yes.
And Campbell, yes. So the consent agenda items pass unanimously. All right, and now we are at item 9, business. 9.1, proposed use of education protection account funds for fiscal year 2021.
Thank you. Yeah, so this item is just a requirement, a continuing requirement of the education protection account that we approve the use of those funds. So we receive over $4 million across all of the charters for the education protection account. The education protection account funds cannot be used for general administration, and they can be used pretty much, and they cannot be used for school administration costs. So what we're proposing is that we use most of these funds on instruction. So a lot of teacher salaries and benefits. There was some we built into the adopted budget to be used for pupil transportation. And the likelihood of us using bus companies is probably falling every day for this year because of the pandemic. So I put a kind of a clause in this item that if if we don't end up using busing, that those dollars will be shifted back over to instructional use in some form, either supplies or teacher salary and benefits.
All right, that is a board motion, and we will have a motion on that and then for discussion after. So I will entertain a motion on the Education Protection Account Fund for fiscal 2021.
So moved.
Who is that?
Mr. Block.
Mr. Block moved. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Second, Bruce. Any other discussions, questions? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. Mr. Block?
Yes.
Mr. Mandrick?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Campbell, yes, unanimously passed. Thank you. And the next item under business is reinstatement of the data cost offset stipend, and that was the one the addendum was added to, I believe.
So yeah, just by way of explanation,
Okay.
when we in March, when we went into distance learning and remote working, we decided, and you decided,
yes,
to help support our employees by this small way of recognizing that it costs more to work from home in some ways. Certainly there are savings in some ways, gas and other things, but there are some costs related to using your own data plan, let's say, or your own internet. And so we wanted to have a show of support for those types of things. And so you had approved a 2-month, I believe, for the 2 months at the end of the year stipend. Since we are opening in distance learning, we're asking that you reinstate that same stipend. At this point, somewhat open-ended. In other words, it's starting now And then we would reassess it if we go back into a world where we are working physically on campus. We'll revisit it. But until then, we believe it is still a necessary enhancement for our employees.
Okay, thank you. And so I will entertain a motion at this point and discussion later. Yes, Mr. Turner.
Move approval.
Move approval. I need a second.
Second.
Second, Mr. Block. Any discussion or other questions? Any other discussion? Hearing none. Roll call. Mr. Block.
Yes.
Mandrick.
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
Campbell, yes. Action passes. All right. We are now to Central Administration, item 12. 12.1, GCC Board Resolution regarding 2020-21 school year. And that is a resolution that we will take a vote on. Madam?
Mr. Sample, do you want to address this resolution?
Yes, so the resolution before you is a standard resolution that was created and developed by our legal counsel. It is one that is very similar to the same process that school districts are going through. It's the same template as used by CSBA and others. And basically what it does is it allows the superintendent, as the emergency and the pandemic continues to progress, to be able to make the best decisions fast as possible in the interest of the safety of our students, staff, and families. I'll take any questions if you have them.
That's as it should be, I believe, because we need someone who can think fast and act fast. So thank you for that explanation, and all districts are doing it.
And I'm sorry, Madam President, I did mean to also mention that the board previously passed this same similar resolution for the 1920 school year. This is obviously for the 2021 school year as the pandemic.
So it's the same resolution, but for the coming school year. Mr. Turner, Jack.
Yes, I had already talked to Jason about this and appreciate the explanation. Lily, I would ask, since we kind of goes a period of time, that the executive committee or whatever, if there are really emergency situations that you have to deal with the superintendent on, would you communicate that to the board and so forth? Because you're kind of our liaison on this particular issue. And in reading it, I was surprised that it touched all bases from collective bargaining contracts, which we don't have.
We don't have.
To, ongoing school meals and so forth. So yes, it's a pretty comprehensive document.
Yeah. Thank you, Jack. And I think Bruce R would have any problems meeting with, or if Dr. Peterson contacts us as executive committee, we can make sure that the information gets out to all board members, whatever needs to be. So, all right, any other comments or questions? In hearing none. And it is a resolution, and it's a voice vote. So, Madam Secretary Blythe, please. Okay, Mr. Block.
Did we put a motion on the floor yet?
Yes, didn't we? Oh,
No.
I'm sorry. Excuse me. I'm sorry.
Need a motion.
Okay. Did I get a motion?
Also
Yes,
move.
Bruce? So move.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Block. I'm sorry. All right, it has been moved in second. Any other discussion on the item? Hearing none, then I will entertain a vote. Mr. Block,
Yes.
Mandrick,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
and Campbell, yes. All right, thank you. So that will be recorded and the secretary will sign it. Thank you. And now we are at personnel, 13.1, I think, yeah. Independent study, middle school specialist job description.
This is really just a expansion of other similarly situated job descriptions. We're just probably creating them to be more specific. So you have recently, I believe, approved an elementary program specialist, This is a middle school specialist position. It's just to clarify that that specialist role is serving in the middle school. It is, specialist roles are only non-classroom based program positions, and they provide support for the entire middle school. They almost act like a lead teacher in that particular program. So it's just a job description. It's not any persons that we already have on staff are already a specialist, and they would just get a more specific job description now than they've had before.
Okay. Now
So she was on something different.
did I hear move approval? Or did I hear some of the comments? I thought I heard something. Okay, I will entertain a motion. Mr. Block. Mr. Block,
1 second.
did you?
I thought you said something about closed session.
No, not yet.
Okay, all right.
Not yet. I am
I'll move.
seeking, you move. Okay. May I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Turner. Has been moved in second. All right, I will roll call. Mr. Block,
Yes.
Mandrick,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Campbell, yes. All right, so that item has been approved. Independent Study Middle School Specialist. And now we are down to board comments. Board comments. Board comments? No comments? Well, again, I've said it all and I've said again, I really appreciate all of the work that you guys are doing to keep us moving in the right direction and getting ready for the students and staff to come back as you already have done. I appreciate all of the hard work that you're doing and all of the things that keeps GCC moving in the right direction. Thank you. I am just so ready to get out and get into the schools. I can't stand this. It is so hard to sit here and not be able to be a part of what's going on other than board meeting. But thank you so much. Any other comments, board members? Hearing none. Okay, announcement of the next board meeting. The next regular board meeting is August the 11th. Please note that August 11th for the next board meeting. And I want to call your attention, my dear board members, to our GCC board retreat, August the 25th. August the 25th. We will get more information on time and how it's going to run, but I'm sure it'll be virtual as we are now. So, but please note, August the 25th. So we hope to have a full board
At this point, I would assume that you should block the day like you normally would, but we will have, if it's similar to our admin retreat, we'll start like at 8:30 or 9. We'll have half an hour breaks in the morning and the afternoon. We'll have a full hour for lunch because it's hard to stay just focused for a whole day. But we will be, you know, if you block kind of your 9 to 4, I think you'll be safe. We'll probably not go that long is what I'm saying.
Are we gonna have breakfast and lunch sent to us?
No, you're not.
That means we got to
not by
provide
me.
I suggest we come to the office so we can have our lunch provided for us. Okay.
You can come, but there's not going to be any lunch here either. I can tell you that.
All right, and so with that, we will now get ready to go into closed sessions. And it's 17.1, Employee Performance Evaluation, Superintendent Government Code Section 54.957. So we will recess now to go into closed session. So we will be led by Deputy Superintendent Jason. So board members.
Just be patient. It will work itself out. They have to move you around a little bit.
Yeah.
So board, you will see a thing that says you're being invited to a breakout room. You need to click the word join.
Okay. Thank you. Hello, everyone. We are back and closed session, no action taken. So thank you. And for the good of the organization, is there anything else to be discussed at this point? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion for adjournment. Mr. Turner? I think he's saying he's still muted. Jack?
Okay.
Okay, may I have a second?
I'll second.
It has been moved in second. All in favor? The voting sign of aye.
Bye.
Aye.
Motion adjourned. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
everyone.
Lily. Congratulations.
Thank you.